gentlemen, guys, thank you very much. Away we go on game number 6 on a 71-degree night in Cleveland, Ohio. And here we are. It's the World Series with Cleveland up 3-2. And now welcome to the broadcast booth, everybody. I'm Joe Buck. The Hall of Famer John Smoltz is coming right up. Okay, World Series and game 6. That combination has provided some of the greatest thrills in the history of this game. You think about Carlton Fisk in 1975. You think about the Mets comeback at home in 1986. You think about David Freese and the home run he hit in 2011 against the Texas Rangers. Can't wait to see what's in store for us tonight in Cleveland, Ohio. And John Smoltz, I know you're excited to get this thing underway. What are you looking for tonight?
Well, there's so much emotion, right? The determination to get this done. Maybe we can simplify it and say the number 5 is going to have a play in this series, and that's the 5 that I'm talking about, the Cubs lineup. The top 5, they're going to have to produce. They're the only ones that have been producing. Look at the numbers. They're going to have to get it done. What Joe Maddon did by putting Kyle Schwarber in the second spot is a game changer. He will get pitched to instead of in game earlier in the series. They don't have to pitch to him if he's in the 5th spot. So I think the number 5 is essential for both ball clubs.
And how about this? As the series returns to the American League City, you get the advantage for the National League team with the DH back. The Cubs get their DH back in Kyle Schwarber. Okay, the number 5 applied to the Cleveland side as well.
They're undefeated when leading after 5 their last 23 games. It is so important to get to the 5th inning with the lead. Terry Francona has so many decisions to make, but the one he can go to is Andrew Miller. And when does he go to him? So if you're Josh Tomlin, you got to be able to give him the ball with the lead or tied, and then the Indians are in a good spot.
It's Josh Tomlin against Jake Arrieta. It is game number 6 tonight, and in a series that is so evenly matched talent-wise, sometimes it's the strategy that makes all the difference.
The objective is simple, yet the path to victory complex. Strategy put to the test. Maneuvers contested. Each move setting up the next until one is victorious. Chicago refused to be a pawn in Game 5, deftly moving around the board to avoid elimination. With their pieces set, Cleveland looks to capture a World Series title for the first time since 1948. The Cubs hope to avoid checkmate, while the Indians look to be crowned king. Who will make the right moves tonight?
71 degrees. And the average temperature, you see where it typically is, on average 23 degrees cooler. And the wind is blowing out to center. The matchup, Tomlin and Arrieta. The matchup, Rosenthal against Verducci, and it's Ken Rosenthal who gets to go first.
Joe, for all the news at the top of the Cubs lineup, there is some intrigue at the bottom as well. Joe Maddon talked at length with Javier Baez today about letting the ball travel deeper, creating more time for himself at the plate. The two continued their work and conversations during batting practice, and Baez hit one ball after another to the opposite field. If we see that tonight, it will be a great sign for Baez and for the Cubs. Now over to Tom Verducci.
Well, the Cleveland Indians really believe in metrics that show when the lineup turns over a third time, relief pitchers are more effective than starting pitchers. Terry Francona is very comfortable putting the game in the hands of Andrew Miller, Brian Shaw, and Cody Allen. Sounds like a law firm. Miller, Shaw, and Allen. Well, they've allowed only one earned run in 13 innings and struck out 43% of the batters they faced. So if the Cubs do not have an early lead, their task is a difficult one. They will have to beat Cleveland's best public defenders. Joe?
Yeah, and really, if you think about where Francona's been, John Smoltz, he's in essence trying to get through this World Series and the bulk of the postseason with 6 guys, 3 starters, and the 3 main contributors out of the bullpen that Tom just talked about. But here's Tomlin on short rest. He's 2-0 this postseason. He makes his 4th start. His ERA is 1 3/4. I will be interested to see how he gets along. I know we talk about his confidence, but here he is facing the Cubs with 3 days of rest. So they just saw him back in Chicago. To me, it's different than Corey Kluber. Kluber's got the ability to change his game plan. We'll see how Josh Tomlin does after that game 3 start.
Yeah, absolutely. The less pitches he throws per at bat, the better, because when it get deeper, he's not the wipeout strikeout guy that we saw Kluber.
Give me the Cubs lineup, and it's much different tonight because of the DH spot. Dexter Fowler leads it off. Then it's Kyle Schwarber. Then it's Chris Bryant, who's back in the number 3 spot, for the first time since the 3rd of July that Bryant's been 3rd and Rizzo's been 4th for the Cubs. Zobrist, Addison Russell, Wilson Contreras, Jason Hayward, and Javi Baez. Strike 1.
Well, for Tomlin, he's going to have to paint the corners, throw his curveball for effect, and his cutters in on left-handers.
Strike 2. That's to 3rd, 1 away. Caught by Ramirez. You know Jose Ramirez at 3rd, but let's take you around the rest of the defense for Cleveland. Coco Crisp is back in the outfield. He's in left. Tyler Naquin in center, and Lonnie Chisenhall, who's been battling the flu, is in right. Here's Jose Ramirez, Francisco Lindor, Jason Kipnis, and Mike Napoli on the infield. 3rd to 1st, and Roberto Perez does the catching as Kyle Schwarber, the DH, protected by Bryant behind him, digs in. Lay him to pull everywhere, and he does. To the right side, Kipnis, 2 out.
Well, just like I said, if it's going to be good for the Indians, it's going to be quick results for Tomlin. And I would think that the Cubs are going to be aggressive. It's a good hitting and good pitching environment, unlike the last time they were here. And for the Cubs, they would love nothing more than to elevate and get some gaps and possibly some home runs. But right now, Tomlin has such confidence. He's on such a roll since September. He feels like he's unbeatable.
Kris Bryant, 2 hits in this World Series, but one of them huge. Leading off the 4th inning of Game 5, he tied it with a home run into left center at Wrigley 2 nights ago. Strike 1. For coverage of this game in Spanish, please tune to Fox Deportes. Strike 2. He looks like a Jugs gun here early, just firing strikes.
That's what he does, and that's what he's been doing. Fearless.
High fly ball in the air to left. Cubs strike first. Tape measure shot by Kris Bryant.
You cannot throw him a curveball for a strike, especially with 2 strikes. The way that his swing through the zone, he has that unbelievable lift, and they have been a steady diet of breaking balls. And finally, Bryant says, you know what? I'm going to sit on one, and sit on one did he, and that was a no-doubter.
Now Rizzo. So Bryant hitting in the number 3 spot for the first time since the first days of July, as his 2nd home run in as many games. And now Rizzo trying to follow suit. Back to the homer.
He went slider, curveball, but see that loop right there and see that swing path. That is exactly what has made this guy the MVP this year. And everybody in the playoffs has pitched him tough, and he hasn't been unleashed via the home run till lately.
It took Tomlin 9 pitches to have a 3-up, 3-down first inning in Game 3. That game, by the way, ending in a 1-0 Cleveland win. Here's pitch 11 with the Cubs on top. Rizzo. That's into right center for a hit. And the top of the first inning continues.
Yeah, hanging changeup, and we said the front 5 guys, right? The first 5 guys of this lineup for the Cubs have to do the damage. So far, 2 outs, homer, right there's the pitch, and he knows it right away. So does Tomlin, and then Rizzo hits a hanging changeup and doesn't try to do too much with it. Gets a base hit. Zobrist, the ultimate protector, batting 5th.
And here he is, just 3 for 21 in his career against Tomlin. Rizzo hadn't even taken his lead yet. Josh Tomlin allowed 36 home runs during the regular season. The 2nd most in the American League. Had allowed none this postseason until Bryant got him in the 1st. Still in the 1st. Zobrist, strike 1.
Well, he's definitely throwing strikes, and he's attacking the zone. Fortunately for the Indians, Tomlin's home runs he's given up, they haven't been many, to your point. They've all been solos.
Same for the Indians now. They've allowed 8 solo shots as a pitching staff this postseason. The 0-1 to Zobrist. That's into right center, a base hit. Rizzo will turn and go. 1st and 3rd with 2 out here in the 1st.
Now the interesting thing here for Tomlin is you've got to be mentally tough here, because your curveball is a weapon, and the guys you're going to face next, you need it. Russell struggles with curveballs, but the last couple, the left-handers have been able to stay back, see it well, and Zobrist, who's been hot, finds the gap, playing deep, keeps the runner from scoring. You see Schwarber likes what he sees. Now Russell been moved up, struggling with off-speed pitch. To see if he can stay with the theme of going the other way, get away from trying to pull the ball, and stay on the breaking ball.
The 22-year-old shortstop fouls it back.
hardest thing in pitching is when you feel like that. You set up a lineup, you faced them twice, your curveball's very effective. You just can't eliminate it. You just got to execute better.
This is just the second career start on 3 days rest for Tomlin. It's just the second time in this World Series as we play here in Game 6. The Cubs have had 3 straight hits. It started with a homer, and then crisp singles into right center by the lefties Rizzo and Zobrist. In the air to center, Naquin to his left, Chisenhall, neither one gets it. 1 run scores. Here comes Zobrist, throw home, safe as the ball gets away, and Russell ends up at third. And a big misplay out in right center. It's 3-0.
You can see this right from the beginning. Watch Naquin. He's the captain. He's got to make the call, and he looks over to his teammate, and once he did that, neither one was in position to catch the ball, and then Zobrist taking no chances. You can see right there, Chisenhall's like, what are you doing? And then the catcher is absolutely fair game when he puts himself in the way of the plate. The throw took him that place. Half slide, half barrel. And 2 outs, nobody on, and the next thing you know, it's 3-0 Cubs. Wow.
Only because nobody touched it does it go down as a 2-run double for Addison Russell. Then the error on the second baseman Kipnis on the throw. Either could have caught it easily, and neither Chisenhall nor Naquin went for it.
And I think what Chisenhall did is kind of threw a deke indirectly to Naquin. When he goes in front of him and the ball's going to go over his head, Naquin thinks that he's got it. And so he gives up on it. Wow, what a tough break for the Indians.
Now runner at third is Russell for Wilson Contreras. So those are 3 earned runs because the error came on the throw home, which allowed Russell to move from second to third. And again, it's charged to Kipnis, his 3rd error of this World Series. Contreras likes to take a strike. He's already done that. Here's the 0-1. And already action for Cleveland in their bullpen. It's Mike Clevinger, the hard-throwing right-hander who pitched in Game 5. Here comes a 1-1. Down and away, ball 2.
2 outs in Game 1, Lester, and then the Indians scored 2 runs. Went on to win that game. 2 outs, nobody on here. A homer, couple hits, a misplayed ball, and a little less enthusiastic crowd. Even though it's in the 1st inning, they know they still have a lot of time left.
Here's a 2-1 to Contreras. 2-2.
Both Contreras and Baez, as this series has played out, have been more and more aggressive with 1 strike in the count, not to mention 2 strikes, really expanding the zone.
Crowd trying to rally behind Tomlin. That's outside for a full count.
The hard part here on a 3-2 count for Tomlin is You cannot give in. Do not give in to this count, because you got to bet on Contreras wants to do more and will not take the walk, so you can go to your off-speed pitch if you want.
Another chance in right center, and Naquin says, "I've got it," and this time he handles it. But the Cubs down 3-2. Come up with 3 in the first. Bryant started it with a home run. And the Cubs have come out swinging in Game 6 after a half. Lead 3-0. This Bud's for you. And by Chevrolet, more 2016 J.D. Power Dependability Awards than any other brand. Game 6 into the bottom of the first inning. Cleveland coming to bat. What do they have in store for Jake Arrieta? Top 3, the DH Carlos Santana, then Jason Kipnis, then Francisco Lindor. In the middle, it's Mike Napoli, Jose Ramirez, and Lonnie Chisenhall. And on the back end, it's Coco Crisp in left, Tyler Naquin in center, and Roberto Perez catching and batting ninth. Against Jake Arrieta, the reigning Cy Young Award winner after his 22-6 season a year ago. He backed it up with 18 wins this year. 1-1 this postseason, the winner Game 2. And that misses inside, ball 1 to Carlos Santana.
The patience of the Indians, even though they gave up 3 in the first, work the count against Jake, see if he's on with his fastball.
A ball and a strike.
In the first game they faced, by my count, they had taken 44 of his fastballs. 44. And the key for Jake Arrieta, if he's got his cutter, it's going to be a good game. He's been struggling. The weather's going to help his cutter, but he can lose it for 4 to 6 to 7 pitches with that fastball command. Rarely does he go to his 4-seamer. He likes the 2-seamer. You saw the curveball there. But the cutter's the key, and the Indians' patience if he gets wild.
On a 71-degree night, 1-2 pitch. Struck him out, and a good start for Arrieta. In the outfield is Ben Zobrist, already in the middle of the action. Offensively, Dexter Fowler in center and Jason Hayward in right. Around the infield is Bryant, Russell, Baez, and Rizzo. Wilson Contreras does the catching, the 24-year-old rookie. And he'll flash the signs to Arrieta with Jason Kipnis at the plate.
97. You don't think those 3 runs did something for him stepping out there in the bottom of the first?
95 fouled back.
Great luxury. The Indians in the first 13 postseason games, in the first inning alone, only gave up 3 runs. Tonight, they matched that total. Not what they were looking for in the start.
Misplay a big part of it in right center. The 0-1. Look at this. In the regular season, the Cubs scored 6 or more runs in 15 of his 18 wins. There's certain guys, the number just comes up and they get runs. Arrieta got runs in the first inning tonight.
Well, I'd say it's not his lucky T-shirt because he doesn't wear a T-shirt. Maybe it's undergarments or something, but you got to believe he's got something that works. Oh, man, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Here's a 1-2 pitch. Kipnis to the right side. Baez with a backhand and a flip. The routine is fun to watch with Baez. 2 out.
And there was a cutter right there. Not his best, but because you have to, as a hitter, be prepared for so much movement. You've got the lateral movement away. You see the cutter right there. It's supposed to be in more. But he threw 20 cutters in the previous game, and none of which resulted in a hit. So the cutter is such a big weapon because it's an equalizer to this 2-seam moving away from left-handers. And that's what the Indians are trying to kind of hoping he doesn't have tonight.
The base is empty. Here's Francisco Lindor. Strike 1 from Arrieta, who lasted 5 2/3 in game 2, allowed a run on just 2 hits. Struck out 6, walked 3. His one loss this postseason came in LA. There's another strike. And it's 0-2.
Well, he looks smooth, and I'm telling you, sometimes the 3 runs can make you nervous because you never anticipated in a World Series game, an eliminating game. But it doesn't look like the 3 runs did anything but fire him up. And the reason I say makes you nervous, as a pitcher, you don't prepare for a lead. You prepare to pitch a tight game, don't give up any runs, nose to the ground, don't pay attention to anything else. You look up 3-0, you're like, whoa, now it's mine.
Does not get the call on that tailing pitch. He started to walk away, and Joe West, the veteran umpire, says stay on the mound.
Well, that's a great pitch and a great reaction by Arrieta. You don't do anything. Joe West, one of the veteran guys, do not show your displeasure, and it'll be an okay game.
Are you saying that Joe West can get a little ticked off if you show him up?
Oh boy, Kenny, the famous Bumgarner and Joe West stare-off. Joe's been in the game for at least 30+ years and certainly won't take kindly to questioning 60 feet away from him.
2-2. Full count. On deck, Napoli. A 2-out walk. From a near strikeout, Arrieta thought he had to a 2-out walk to keep the inning alive for Napoli.
And this will frustrate not only the pitching coach but Joe Maddon. He did this a couple times. He had 0-2 6 times in the first game, and he can make an 0-2 to 3-2 scenario pretty quick. And that's something you can't do in these moments. You work extra hard to do things that you had the hitter right where you wanted him in 0-2. Again, 2 outs. You've got to get 3 outs. We've seen what can happen in an innocent walk, then a stolen base, and then possibly a hit.
The homer for Napoli this postseason came in Toronto during the ALCS. When he connects, they fly. Strike 1.
And just because it's 3-0, the Indians cannot deviate from running. They must run. You can run on Jake. You can run on Lester. When you get on, you have to make it. You have to make it difficult for the Cubs. I say he's got to go right here.
Interestingly, Lindor has tried to run 4 times. He's been successful only once. And he's 1 for 3 specifically in this World Series.
And it might be just a little bit of nerves, but Jake is slow to the plate. Yes, he can pick up at first, unlike Lester. To right there. But you have to be disciplined to say, as soon as I see movement, I got to go, because I'm gauging that my lead and jump is going to be better than the combo of Jake and Contreras getting the ball to second.
That's fouled back and out of play, strike 2. Cubs fell down in this series 3-1. The last team in a World Series to come back and win down 3-1 in a World Series, the '85 Royals, but they had the final 2 games at home. Cubs trying to do it on the road. Here's a 1-2.
So far, that's an extra, what, 8 or 9 pitches after being 0-2. They add up.
Pitch number 20 is out, number 3. And Arrieta bookends the first inning with strikeouts. Indians leave a man, and after 1 in Game 6, 3-0 Chicago. Chevrolet, the official vehicle of Major League Baseball. Chevrolet has earned more 2016 J.D. Power Dependability Awards than any other brand, as Hayward skies one into right, and Chisenhall will drift back to get it. One pitch, one out in the second. You can learn more about Chevrolet at Chevrolet.com.
Well, you can see the approach by the Cubs has been pretty simple. See something you like, go after it. Other than Fowler, who typically likes to see a few pitches out of the leadoff spot, it's been a more aggressive approach and a better feeling for the Cubs. They are by far a very contagious hitting team, one way or the other. When they're hitting a lot. When they're not, we've seen how they've been shut down.
Problem for Chicago has been hitting with runners on base in the World Series. Prior to the first inning, we're 12 for 77. Here's Baez, takes a strike. That's a 156 average tonight, 2 for 3 in the first inning. Well, here's Baez. You heard from Ken Rosenthal before the game about the meetings that Madden has had with Baez. There's another strike, and it's 0-2. Trying to make him cut down, trying to pull everything, murder every pitch, and he swung at 58% of pitches out of the strike zone. That's a pitch that's been getting him. Ball one.
Yeah, and you could just tell. I mean, a concerted effort. It helps. They got a 3-run lead. One at bat can change the at bats in the eyes of the pitcher if they see a less aggressive Baez, a more disciplined, if possible, Baez.
That's up the middle. Tough play. Kipnis throws across his body. Got it. And the first base coach, Brandon Hyde, immediately says, look at that, to his dugout. And we'll see if the Cubs want to challenge it. And we'll get another peek at it.
These plays are always difficult for the first base umpire. You're listening for sound from the glove and the foot hitting the bag. And he might have gotten that right in live action.
Well, you get an extra challenge in the postseason, but they're not going to look at it. What a play by Kipnis.
Yeah, great play. The accuracy of the throw is going to be so important. Baez can run.
Well, the more you see Jason Kipnis, and I know he hasn't been hitting the way he would have liked coming into this postseason, but the more you like him, he's a gritty player. Hit a big 3-run home run in Game 4 at Wrigley. Emotional heart and soul of this team. With 2 out, nobody on. Fowler, ball 1.
Good at bat, though. When we were talking to Joe Madden, he wanted the ball to get deeper. And when a hitter wants the ball to get deeper, he doesn't care if he gets jammed. It sounded like he broke his bat on that ball, staying up the middle. So that worked. That was a positive at bat, even though it resulted in an out. When you're not letting the ball get deep, you're jumpy and you're expanding. You're moving your head, your body, and that's why you swing at pitches that are so far out of the zone.
Fowler skies one into right. Chisenhall near the line. Tomlin comes back with a 1-2-3 second, bottom half. 3-0 Cubs. Tonight's telecast is sponsored by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Official Caps t-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, jackets, and more. Get all your Cubs and Indians World Series gear and celebrate your favorite team at MLBshop.com. Bottom of the second. Here's Jose Ramirez. Strike one from Arrieta. 2-out walk by Arrieta to Lindor in the first inning. Struck out 2, including Napoli to end the first. That's a strike, and it's 0-2.
Now that curveball's such a weapon. He gets a lot of called strikes with it. He'll get more action pitches, meaning swings and outs with his cutter, swings and misses with his curveball.
Struck him out as Ramirez chased it up and away. 1 down. Well, we've been saying it all postseason, certainly during this World Series. The last time the Cleveland Indians won it all, 1948. That great team, the last World Series championship, 24,858 days ago. There's Eddie Robinson then, first baseman on that club. Here is Eddie Robinson now, the last surviving member of that Indians 48 championship team, 95 years old, and looks fantastic. At the ballpark tonight. There's a strike to Chisenhall. When announcers used to show up in Cleveland, didn't matter the sport, they'd say, well, this city's been dying for a championship since 1964. The Cleveland Browns won the NFL championship. That's a foul ball over the Baltimore Colts. They waited 52 years until this past June, and the Cavs won it all, coming back from down 3-1 to beat Golden State. And now 4.5 months later, Indians trying to get their championship. They came so close in '97, and they blew a 9th-inning lead in Game 7 and lost to the Marlins in extra innings. Ball 1 to Chisenhall.
And so far, Arrieta 0-2 or 1-2 against every hitter. A good start, aggressive start. He's commanding his pitches. And he looks like the Arrieta of last year.
Throwing hard tonight. 4 strikeouts through an inning and 2/3.
You know, talking to him about the environment and the weather in his previous game, as you see this electric fastball, he said the weather and the grip had a lot to do with kind of his lack of command or the feeling of grip pressure. So much different tonight. This is normal feeling to a pitcher and to a hitter.
With 2 out, nobody on. Coco Crisp digs his way in. Ball 1. Talking about Eddie Robinson, a couple final notes. Longtime baseball scout and executive, GM of the Braves and Rangers. In '95, he's the 11th oldest former player. There's a good tight breaking ball from Arrieta. And how about this? When Babe Ruth was at Yankee Stadium in June of 1948, the Cleveland Indians were there. And Ruth gave that farewell speech. He would die 2 months later in August. And it was Eddie Robinson's bat that Babe Ruth used to lean on to make that speech as the Yankees retired his number that day.
That's cool. Boy, does he look good.
Here comes a 2-1 to Coco Crisp. Left side. Bryant waits on it. Arrieta, good start. 2 scoreless, 3rd inning rolls in. Game 6. Cubs batting, heart of the order coming up. They lead it by 3. We'll give you World Series Game 5, 4th inning, down by 1, and Chris Bryant found the bleachers in left center tonight. StatCast powered by Amazon Web Services. This blast put the Cubs up 1-0 in the first inning. It was followed by a single by Rizzo, a single by Zobrist, and a 2-run double in quotes on a ball hit by Addison Russell that dropped in right center. Both Chisenhall and Naquin could have caught, but neither one did. And looking at each other, 2 runs crossed home plate. 2-0 now on Schwarber. Kyle had only 1 at bat during the 3 games that were played at Wrigley. And he has shown patience at the plate. He did in the first 2 games of this World Series.
Well, the evolution of Kyle Schwarber, could he possibly? Yes, he's going to play. Could he get a hit? Yes. Now it's almost as if he's Babe Ruth in this lineup.
Good pitch from Tomlin, who's trying to survive and get through this 3rd inning after there was action behind him in the Cleveland bullpen in the first.
Well, that's where you got to tie him up. You got to tie up Schwarber, throw it up above his hands. Don't make a mistake, though.
That was Josh Tomlin's dad, Jerry, who was flown in here. And it was a person who just wanted to help out. "3-2. That's foul. And as we talked about, a circulatory issue in the spine for Jerry Tomlin during the month of August. That's when he was hit with that. He has been paralyzed from the waist down. Somebody offered to fly the parents of Josh Tomlin in on a private plane. And so Tomlin gets to have his parents here after they were at Wrigley, and he pitched brilliantly in Game 3.
Yeah, and he really only should have given up 1 run here, because you talk about that misplay, the homer to Bryant, the only run.
3-2. That's a leadoff walk on a borderline pitch.
But here's why everyone's talking about Schwarber, and even though he hasn't played but a few games, the Cubs lineup is exposed in this postseason. They had too many swing and miss outs. Putting him in the 2nd spot makes it tougher on a pitcher to go through the top 5 that we were talking about in the open. 3 runs of the top 5 hitters scored in the first inning. He lengthens the lineup, and what that means is you now have to face the meat of the order with potential runners on, because the back end of the Cubs lineup has not produced.
Here's Bryant, who homered his first time, and he gets this off the end of the bat. He's getting better swings. Long run, and in that Bermuda Triangle again, it's Chisenhall as Naquin has to hit the deck. Kipnis was going way out, and Naquin, I think, is getting a little frustrated out there in right center. Chisenhall stepped forward and made that grab 1 out.
Yeah, you don't see this too often. All right, you know that the infielder's going to give way, but somebody has got to either be louder, because this is the 2nd time this could have been a big issue on a routine fly ball. Naquin, of course, plays against right-handers. And that one almost another issue.
Well, Naquin got up and was complaining to Kipnis, I think, showing his frustration as Chisenhall didn't back away. As you said, the first time it happened, that's a center fielder's job to take charge out there. Here's Rizzo. Strike 1 from Tomlin, with Otero up for Cleveland in their bullpen.
I thought this would be the hardest game in the world to Terry Francona to manage. Now 3-0 changes it, but the reason I thought it was going to be a hard game is you have 1 game to play with, but he doesn't want to play with it. He's going to have to manage the bullpen in a strange way tonight.
That's popped behind the plate. It will get out of play. Strike 2.
And what I mean by that is, typically you ask your starter to give you 6, 7. Well, that's not what he's asking Tomlin. And if the game would have been close, or does get close in the 5th, it's pretty much going to be Miller and the rest of the boys. But you've got to access Miller in a in a winning environment, because you can't burn him and not win the game, because you have a game 7 tomorrow to play if you don't win tonight.
Tom Verducci, what do you see from Tomlin down there?
Yeah, that was a rare curveball right there from Tomlin. This is a guy in the postseason elevated his curveball usage from 15% to 35%. But in that first inning, you saw the hanging curve to Bryant, the hanging curve to Zobrist. Since the Zobrist hit, that's just the second curveball that Tomlin has thrown. And you see these Cub hitters, once you eliminate a pitch from a pitcher, hitting gets a little bit easier.
1 on, 1 out. Line drive to the end of the Chicago dugout. Still 1-2.
Well, and this will do your brain as a pitcher. You just sometimes will tuck this in your back pocket after a couple of these. You've just got to find an at-bat that you can get locked back in on the location of that pitch and still trust you can throw it, because you're going to need it for some of these hitters.
Any more trouble, he may be out of the game. 1 ball, 2 strikes, trying to get Rizzo. 2-2.
Curveball on the outside part. It's not taking that left turn. It's not going down as much. He spins it at a high rate, and when it's good, it starts at the belt and drops it to shin guards.
Rizzo with another base hit. 2 for 2. And Schwarber will end up at second. We'll see if Francona is going to go any deeper into the game with Josh Tomlin on the mound. Otero's getting loose. And here's another one. Another breaking ball, curveball that Rizzo just smokes back up the middle.
Rizzo stays inside of the ball, which means he goes up the middle and doesn't try to pull it. You sometimes got to tip your hat to a hitter. If you make a pitch that's on the outer half, maybe a little bit too high, but Rizzo's starting to see the ball really good. The timing of hitting for the Cubs couldn't come at a better time, down 3-1, trying to force this to a game 7.
Zobrist had 6 total hits across the first 2 series of the postseason. Much better in this World Series. He's got 8 for 20. Singled, scored a run in the first. Ball 1.
The inside part of the plate where Joe West is setting up has been very strict. He has not given an inch on that side of the plate. The outside part of the plate where he is not set up is more leniency over it. You see he's setting up over the right shoulder of the catcher, and he'll stay there.
This time Tomlin gets the call, a ball and a strike.
I always, when I was pitching, wanted to know where the lenient side of the plate, where can I get the extra inch? And typically you find that out really quickly, sometimes based on where the umpire is actually setting up, because he's got a better view right there. Just that's a great shot by our camera to see he's locked in on that side. The outside's a little bit more of a guess.
Hard hit but foul. Strike 2. It was a year ago tonight. Ben Zobrist and the Kansas City Royals celebrated a world championship with a win at Citi Field over the Mets. Now trying to help the Cubs get to tomorrow night. Hard hit, base hit. Schwarber will be held. And the bases are loaded with 1 out. As Rizzo and Zobrist have gone 4 for 4.
And that's the only issue with Schwarber. You got to take the 1 base at a time because of his knee, and that's going to be it more than likely for Tomlin.
Gary Jones, the third base coach, wisely holding Schwarber at third. The bases are loaded. Tomlin is gone. Otero's coming in. opportunity for Chicago as they already lead by 3 here in the third. AT&T call to the bullpen. Earlier than Terry Francona wanted, it's Dan Otero. His work in 5 games this postseason. Bases loaded, 1 out. Russell takes a ball. The Cubs tonight 4 for 6 with runners on. Again, after going 12 for 77 with men on through the first 5 games.
I think this is a decent matchup for Russell. Otero likes to pitch right-handers in. Russell, of course, struggles with the ball away and breaking balls.
Drove in 95 runs during the regular season. Takes it down, the count 2-0.
So now you just look at one spot and one spot only. This is where you think about lift. Get the ball in the air, if nothing else, a sac fly. Look in the gaps.
Remember, the lead runner is Kyle Schwarber, coming off in-season knee surgery on his left knee. 2-0. High fly ball to left center. At the wall. Grand slam. 7-0 Chicago. Addison Russell came into this game over his last 8 hitting over 300. 2 huge home runs in the NLCS out in Los Angeles. And now a crushing grand slam here in the 3rd inning to open it up. Up by 7. Still only 1 out. And a strike to Wilson Contreras.
Yeah, it just didn't look like a good matchup on paper. Russell likes the ball middle in, and he got behind 2-0, and he stayed there and just looked to lift it. Lift it, he did. And a most memorable grand slam that not only he and his teammates will never forget.
There you go. Konerko, the last to hit a grand slam in a World Series game, game 2 of 05 for the White Sox against Houston, and the 19th in World Series history. 2 hops to Lindor, to his left, 2 out.
Well, he's in a box here with 2-0, and you see the sinker catches the middle, and that's all you got to look for as a hitter. Even though the bases were loaded and it's a 2-0 count, you can never give in to the hitter. I'm sure he was trying to paint that a little bit, and he didn't. And all of Chicago heard this.
Now Hayward takes a strike. Say it again, 2 huge home runs out in LA, with his Cubs down 2 games to 1 in the NLCS. Game 4, game 5. And now this shot to alleviate some, not all, of the pressure here in game 6. As the count goes to 1-1 on Hayward.
Well, unfortunately for Francona, this game got easier to manage now. At a 7-0 deficit, his team's going to have to crawl back. But it affects the way he uses his pen, and he'll have a loaded pen ready, barring a big comeback by the Indians for tomorrow.
It's easy to forget how young Addison Russell is, because we've heard about him in the minor leagues with Oakland and the trade to the Chicago Cubs. He's just 22 years old, and during the regular season drove home 95 runs, hit 21 home runs. The ball really jumps off his bat, and that's his 3rd home run of this postseason.
Yeah, and it does. And the low average speaks to what we've seen in the postseason. Anybody with stuff that's spinning away from him, he really struggled. That leg kick got higher, but when he can stay inside the ball, and that's a theme with these Cubs hitters, young hitters.
Hayward pops it up. Out goes Lindor. Inning over.
Good things happen.
In the inning, Tomlin is chased. Russell chased one out of the park, a grand slam in the 3rd inning. It's 7-0 as they celebrate at Murphy's Bleachers in Chicago as the Cubs try to force a game 7. Ball one to Tyler Naquin. And we're underway in the bottom of the third inning, 7-0. Chicago on top. Indians will try to chip away. That's ball two, 2-0.
And that's exactly what the Indians are going to have to do. Grind out at bats. Find ways to get on base. Still stay aggressive. And climb back in this game. A lot of time.
2-1. Naquin, then Perez, then back to the top of the order, Santana. Only base runner against Arrieta. The 2-out walk to Lindor in the first. Two and two.
Naquin came up and provided some big moments for the Indians, but when the word gets out that they can power you with fastballs, he has yet to make that adjustment against the league.
Got him looking at 95. There's a fastball and strikeout number 5. And the number 9 hitter Roberto Perez will step in. Sunday night in Chicago, 1987 NL MVP Andre Dawson accompanied Freddie Morales from Union League Boys and Girls Club in Chicago to the mound. And earlier tonight, Rosetta Shepard, a member of the Boys and Girls Clubs in Lorain County, delivered the game ball with Len Barker, who once threw a perfect game for Cleveland each year. MLB and Boys and Girls Clubs work together, create unique opportunities for nearly 4 million children and teens worldwide. To find out how you can help, go to greatfutures.org. Strike one on Roberto Perez. 3 for 16 in this World Series. 2 of his 3 hits left the yard, and they both came in game 1. One ball, one strike.
Well, the Indians did a good job the first 2 games in Chicago, kind of taking the crowd out of the home park. And certainly that's been the case here tonight in the first inning and now in the third.
One pitch. Fly ball to center right at Dexter Fowler. 2 down. And back to the top of the order, it's Carlos Santana. A lot of people outside Gateway Plaza after the Cavs won 128-120 over the Rockets. So they're happy about their Cavs, the NBA champions, not happy about what they see tonight inside Progressive Field. But Cleveland leads 3-2. Santana backs out.
It's amazing how people think. You just talk to people in the city and they say, I'm worried about karma. You know, the Cavaliers came back from 3-1. Maybe we used up all our karma if we don't win tonight. It's like all these storylines change in such a quick moment, but the fact is the American League, because the All-Star game has game 7, the home field advantage. We'll see how it plays out, if need be, a game 7, but all that karma stuff, I don't know about that.
And even crossing karma over from one sport to the other.
Yeah, well, the same city, that's what they're worried about. Yeah. They used it all up, is what some of the fans have thought.
1-1 the count with 2 out, nobody on. Santana struck out his first time. Arrieta pitching with a 7-run cushion and a ground ball to Rizzo. The flip, the out, and Arrieta's in charge, and so are the Cubs in game 6, 7-0 Chicago after 3.
9:30 Eastern, FS1.
As we welcome you back to the fourth inning of Game 6, the Cubs lead 7-0. Tonight's aerial coverage brought to you by DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you got to get DirecTV. Call 1-800-DirecTV. It will be Javier Baez to lead it off, then Dexter Fowler, then Kyle Schwarber, the DH, against Danny Salazar. And Salazar misses with a 95-mile-an-hour fastball that rides up and in. Salazar went down in September. Here's a foul back by Baez. Within 9 days, the Cleveland Indians lost their number 2 and 3 starters, Danny Salazar and then Carlos Carrasco. Lost Carrasco to a broken hand. Salazar had a forearm strain that he's worked his way back from. And here he is, added to the active roster for this World Series. No swing there, and the count 2-1. And you think about how Terry Francona has guided this team to this point. Their best player, Michael Brantley, was third in the MVP voting back in 2014. Played only 11 games, out with a shoulder issue. There's a strike. 2-2, and yet here they are, all those injuries, and they're 1 win away from winning everything.
Yeah, it really has been historic. I don't think people can throw that name around too loosely, but when you beat the likes of the teams they did in the quick fashion they did.
A strikeout of Baez starts the fourth.
I think the Indians have just as good a chance next year to get back. It's because of that starting pitching that they have. And if they stay healthy, they can use these weapons and ride another division title. They just weren't as good as advertised until their injuries, and then Terry Francona really had no choice but to use the limited weapons he had and use them as much as possible.
With 1 out, nobody on, the batter is Fowler. Ball 1 to Dexter, who is 0 for 2. Strike 1.
In a division that they ended up running away with the great hitting of the Detroit Tigers and the world champs Kansas City. They used that right-handed pitching and dominated. Salazar's got a great arm. Carrasco, of course, we've already seen Kluber and may see him tomorrow night as well. But that's the mixed view that people are getting confused on. The Kansas City model is a great one. It's turned into the Cleveland Indians model, but only because they lost some starters. They didn't do that all year. They rode their starters for the most part.
Full count on Fowler.
And that's what the Chicago Cubs did. That's why the Cubs are going to be in the same spot next year. They've got their starters returning, their young players. The Indians, whoever loses this series, is still going to be in great shape moving forward.
Strikeout from Salazar, back-to-back, 2 out. Tonight's telecast is sponsored by AT&T and by Walmart. Save money, live better. Schwarber now with the bases empty, 2 down. Kyle drew a leadoff walk in the 3rd inning on a borderline 3-2 pitch. Bryant fly to right, but then hits by Rizzo, and Zobrist loaded him up. Pitching change. And Addison Russell went deep for a grand slam to make it 7-0 against Dan Otero. StatCast is powered by Amazon Web Services, and to say they're playing him to pull, an understatement, especially on the infield. Steady goes the other way, into left. Crisp is back. And a good inning for Salazar. Bottom of the 4th here in Game 6. Cubs are celebrating so far tonight, not so for Cleveland, down 7. As we welcome you back to the bottom of the 4th inning, Cleveland trying to string some hits together. It's Kipnis, and it's a ball from Jake Arrieta. Kipnis, Lindor, and Napoli. If anybody gets on Jose Ramirez. Here's a 1-0 from Arrieta. Check swing on ball 2. Like we talked about a number of times back in Chicago at Wrigley, these fans are looking for any reason to get up, cheer, make some noise. So far, Arrieta has not given them that opportunity. 95 is poured in there for strike 1.
You know, perception is not always reality, but the perception is you got to feel good when you're throwing out Lester, Arrieta, and Hendricks. We saw the numbers on the last 2 pitchers for the Indians, 6 and 1.
Here's one into the gap in left center field. This ball is off the wall. And Kipnis will dig into second with a leadoff double. First hit of the night for the Indians.
The first start for the Indians is to get on the scoreboard. A great extension on a pitch away. He splits the gap and then has to hustle like crazy because this ball comes right back to Fowler. Good throw, and then the guy who can slap a tag on you faster than anybody just not getting the ball in time to do that.
Now the number 3 hitter, Francisco Lindor, who walked his first time. Chopper foul right side. T-Mobile One lets MLB fans always stay connected to the game they love with unlimited LTE data. Welcome to unlimited baseball. And welcome to a lit up Cleveland, Ohio. Josh Tomlin, the starter, ended up going 2 1/3 tonight. Strike 2.
You know, Arrieta's done a nice job just pitching above the zone. It hasn't always been on design to Lindor, but Lindor, who stays up the middle, as we've seen him get some hits early in this series, been a little frustrated with Arrieta. Get some high curveball strike 3s and high sinkers for strike 3s.
He went around on a pitch in the dirt. Good pitch by Arrieta. Strikeout number 6. And out number 1 here in the 4th.
Well, this is a great breaking ball. That thing disappears. You know what's interesting too, we also talked to potentially the Game 7 starters, and it's funny because in each dugout they're hoping for opposite results. Been on both sides where I'm begging for a Game 7, as Hendricks might want to be, and then you know what, I'm cool, we don't need a Game 7. That's where Kluber's at.
Here's Napoli. Ball 1.
But that score has made you think just the opposite. So Kluber, in his mind, will start preparing, I would think, about Game 7 with the score currently the where it is, and the same thing for Hendricks. They emotionally detach and start preparing for their game as if it's going to be played, and that's the proper thing to do.
A check swing, and that caught somebody on its way to the backstop after it hit the bat of Napoli. 1 ball, 1 strike.
You know, in '92, when I was fortunate enough to pitch 3 games in a 7-game series against the Pirates, our Game 7 went terrible, blown out, and I went home early because I didn't want to watch it. Game 6, when I was getting ready to pitch Game 7.
1-1. That's too far inside for ball 2.
So my preparation was, I know I'm going to pitch now, so I'm going to go home and prepare for it and mentally block out the amount of runs they were getting and the hits, because you start staring at it, you start thinking, I just wanted to get away from it.
But if your team rallied, you would have missed the picture.
It was like in the 7th or 8th inning.
Okay. Here's a 2-1. Up and away, 3-1.
So mentally, you just go home, you get in your routine, you get ready for the game, and hope to pitch a gem.
Three-one pitch. Full count as Napoli was trying to drive one out of here. Napoli playing in his third World Series. He lost his first try with Texas, won in 2013 with Boston. Arrieta trying to pitch around a leadoff double here in the fourth. That's into left center field. Will get down for a hit. It'll score Kipnis and put Cleveland on the board. It's 7-1.
That's what they need. Grind them out one at a time. Maybe run into a two-run homer. Good at bat there. 3-1 gets a 3-2. And Jake elevates a two-seamer. He gets just enough of it for an easy RBI.
Batter now is Jose Ramirez. Struck out his first time. We'll get into the comments of both Hendricks and Kluber as we go through this game, but right now the Indians trying to feel better about this score as they try to end this World Series tonight. Cubs want to play on. 1-0 pitch. 2-0. If necessary, tomorrow night on the air at 7 Eastern. Kyle Hendricks, who led the big leagues in ERA this year against Corey Kluber, 4-1 this postseason, 2-0 this World Series. Won games 1 and 4. Here's a 2-0. That's into right field. Hayward's got it. And a big second out here in the fourth inning, and that's exactly why Jason Heyward stays in the lineup. Good jump, good catch. 2 down.
Way harder than it looks. This ball's sinking, but Heyward gets to it. Long stride, good defender, and protects from this ball getting by him, because that ball gets by him. It's not only a run scored, possible inside the park home run. The Cubs defense, which has been so good all year, in this series been a little less than sloppy. They've made some errors and uncharacteristic throws and plays that they haven't. But all will be forgotten if they tighten it up in the last 2 games.
Chisenhall, strike 1. 3-time Gold Glove Award winner is Jason Heyward. Wears a green rubber bracelet on his right wrist. There it is. In honor of Luke Karhoff, the young man he met while playing with the St. Louis Cardinals. That hits Chisenhall to put 2 on. And all of a sudden, with Coco Crisp coming up, the Cleveland Indians are sniffing a big fourth inning here. If Coco can figure something out, here comes Chris Bosio.
This is just a quick mound visit, just to reset. That's all he needs. Reset the situation, say no big deal. Let's just get the ball away. Don't make a mistake over to Crisp. He's turned on some pitches.
So while they congregate, I'll tell you the UFC's legendary New York debut begins on FS1 with the biggest prelims card in UFC history. UFC 205 prelims live from Madison Square Garden, November 12th, only on FS1. Back to the dugout, Bosio. Up to the plate, Coco Crisp, who's been so good this season in this type spot. 2 for 2 this postseason. With at least one in scoring position, he's got runners at first and second. That gets away from Contreras, and the runners advance.
You see the sinker just gets underneath, and good movement by actually changeup. The first changeup we've seen out of Jake.
That could go either way. Could very well be a pass ball. And it is. Runners at second and third, 2 out. Here's a 1-0. Crisp opportunity. 2-0. That's ball 3. Crisp on 3-0 with his team down 6. Loads him up. It'll bring in Tyler Naquin, who was part of that misplay in right center back in the first inning. Rajay Davis is wearing a microphone. If we get an opportunity during this at bat, we'll dip into a conversation they had after that play in right center, and then almost another one 2 innings later.
I normally wouldn't say this after a walk with the bases loaded, but Naquin has had struggles with the fastball. He's got to look over the middle of the plate for something early on to drive, because you know Jake's going to attack him with fastballs.
Naquin, strike 1. Naquin during the regular season hit 14 home runs. He's not gone deep in the postseason. We talked to Terry Francona. He said maybe Tyler can run into one tonight. If he does here, it's a 2-run game. Coming right after him, strike 2.
Yeah, and that's just been the book. And that pitch split the middle part of the plate right there, but the good movement at the end. Elevate the fastball right here with 2 strikes.
Bases loaded, 2 out. In case you're wondering, there have never been 2 grand slams in one World Series game. Addison Russell hit one for the Cubs in the 3rd. Naquin a chance here in the bottom of the 4th. Struck him out. Arrieta into and out of trouble. And through all that, the Indians get only 1. Trail by 6 into the 5th, game 6. Back after this from your local Fox station. Chicago in the 5th as they lead by 6. How about that? Joining a list with Mickey Mantle, youngest player with home runs in back-to-back games of a World Series, with his team facing elimination. Bryant went deep to get the scoring started in Game 5, and he went deep to get the scoring started in Game 6. This time it happened in the 1st. Salazar back to work. The ball and a strike on Chris Bryant.
Part of that discussion, I think, also with Bosio going out there was, look, if it doesn't go well, the count not in your favor. With Crisp, know who's on deck, and you feel better. And obviously, the fastball command, and we've seen 2 at bats and 2 strikeouts.
Hard hit left side. Lindor knocks it down, but no chance. And Bryant is heating up. What a good sign for the Cubs. Chris Bryant, who struggled through the first 4 games of this World Series, is getting hot. How about tonight? Here are the 3, 4, 5, 6 hitters for Joe Maddon.
Well, it's that first 5 that has done the damage that allowed Addison Russell to do exactly that, the grand slam. And when guys start heating up, I talked about the contagious effort it been for the Cubs. They all feel that mojo, and certainly in a desperate game, getting those runs early took a lot of pressure off of them, put a lot of pressure on the Indians.
Here's Rizzo, who has 2 solid singles into center field in this game. That gets away, and down to second is Bryant with nobody out.
We haven't seen a ton of offense this postseason because the pitching's been unbelievable. Also, the weather has had something to do with it. Well, an unusual 72 or plus degree night as we see that pass ball, and another warm one tomorrow. It's got to have the hitters feeling a lot better than they did in previous games.
They're going to give that one a wild pitch. So a runner at second with nobody out as the Cubs try to get that run back. They led 7-0 after 3.5. Indians just got 1 and left the bases loaded in the bottom of the 4th. 1-0 pitch. A ball and a strike. Strike 2. Talking about Chicago, and earlier I mentioned the last team down 3-1 to come back and win the World Series, the '85 Royals over the Cardinals. 11 teams have been down 3-1 since that '85 World Series, and the Cubs are one of just 5 to win Game 5. None of those teams went on to win Game 6. Rizzo pops it up down the left field line. Long run. Pitch by Ramirez. What a play by Jose in foul ground. 1 out.
If you're at home, you have no idea how hard this play was. Running with his back towards you, playing a little bit on the shift, and going towards that tarp and the stands, reaching back. Great play.
Tremendous effort by Jose Ramirez, and able to corral it for out number 1. The batter will be Zobrist. Good zip to this fastball from Salazar tonight. 96 misses, ball 1.
He has an electric arm. He really does. That's that quick arm action. Good changeup. Decent breaking ball, but I'll tell you what, the 96 jumps on the hitter.
Won 11 games during the regular season, was 11-6. Good ERA of 3.87. And finally got himself back in shape after getting over that forearm strain for the World Series.
Since coming back, of course, not been in the rotation. A little rhythm problem and command issues with his fastball at times. That is nice. Can't teach that. That four-seam backspin. You hear the pop of the glove.
There's a 1-1.
You hear the term live arm. That's exactly what it means. You play catch with guys, and some guys, the radar gun, they'll light up, but when you play catch with them, it doesn't seem like that late life. In other words, the best way to describe it is you think you're going to catch the ball, and the ball catches you. It's on you. That's what late life is. That's what Salazar has. Changeup looks like it's coming right here.
A strikeout for out number 2. And that's the third strikeout for Salazar. In an inning and 2/3. And in the third inning, the guy coming up, Addison Russell, gives us StatCast, powered by Amazon Web Services, the Grand Slam. How about a 6 RBI night for Addison Russell? Part of our game summary, sponsored by Budweiser. And the second youngest player to hit a Grand Slam in a World Series game, Mickey Mantle, the youngest. So there's Mantle twice.
You know, it's been kind of a chutes and ladder lineup from 6 on down, right? And Joe Maddon said, I'm putting this guy back up because I'm going to show him, as you mentioned, confidence. I'm going to give confidence to him by putting him higher up, even though he's struggling, because he's a confident guy. And that's what he did in the regular season by putting him in the 5th spot. It's not the prototypical 5th hitter, 220 average, but he responded with 90 RBIs because of the traffic on the bases. He was able to deliver.
The 0-1 pitch. Whoop. Lost the bat. Down we go to Ken Rosenthal.
Addison Russell is only 22, but in this postseason he has shown uncommon maturity. Check out what happened in each of these past 2 series. NLCS 0 for 10, lowers his hands, goes 6 for 12 the rest of the way. World Series 1 for 14, chasing pitches with a number of other young Cubs, 5 for 7. And here he is again with a chance to do more damage.
Yeah, an opportunity for a 7 RBI night with a base hit here. Bryant was at second with nobody out. He's there with 2 out.
And Ken, each time it's come after a hit where the confidence of going the other way has sparked him into being more disciplined and locked in this stretch currently.
Good swing there.
Have you caught one in the booth? You've had to, right? All the years of doing it?
Yeah, not bad. Maybe 1 or 2. I usually duck. I'm really not trying to be a hero.
Well, I've learned from my past experience, so you're in good hands. I made a mistake early in my broadcasting career. I won't make it again.
And it
was a very bad spot that I got hit in.
Oh.
I was too eager, as we've seen a couple come up this way. So I'm just calm now. I'm ready.
0-2 the count. Salazar trying to put away Russell, which he does. Got him looking. Strikeout number 4. Salazar gets out of trouble in the 5th, halfway through game 6. Cubs lead it 7-1. telecast is sponsored by State Farm. Here to help life go right. We welcome you back to the World Series on Fox. Tonight's telecast is presented by T-Mobile One. Beautiful scene down below. Ballpark is alive and kicking. On the 1st of November 2016, Game 6, and the Cubs lead 7-1. As the number 9 hitter Roberto Perez looks at a strike from Jake Arrieta. 71 degrees at the start of the night. Inside, a ball and a strike.
And what a blessing, because these two teams who are obviously trying to end a long drought, it won't be because of the weather that has any play in these last 2 games, which is going to be nice.
Perez totally fooled on that breaking ball down and away, missed it by a lot. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Arrieta has struck out 7, walked only 2, hit a batter. Got a big strikeout last inning with the bases loaded. That's down the chute, and goodbye to Roberto Perez. Strikeout number 8. Some people around the ballpark on this beautiful night. Mike Hargrove, Jim Thome. Al Roker is here with a Cleveland hat on. There's Drew Carey. Great guy. Bill Murray, you know, he's in the house watching his beloved Cubs. Clearly Pearl Jam is not on tour. Eddie Vedder back for more, and Chris Chelios, his seatmate. 19 points tonight, 13 boards for LeBron James, and an 8-point win next door for the Cavs over the Rockets.
It's amazing when you're part of a city and celebrating a championship like they did in the NBA. Everybody in every sport starts rooting. I mean, this is a natural thing for the Cavs to want to see the Indians do what the Cavs did. Every sport gets caught up in it.
Look at that scene at Gateway Plaza. Here's a foul. Terry Francona wanted to come in and watch the parade for the Cleveland Cavaliers when they had it, and he was in the stadium here looking over at 1.3 million fans lining the streets of Cleveland to celebrate LeBron and the Cavs. What a scene that was. Will there be another parade the same year? Here's a pop-up on the infield. Rizzo took his eye off the ball for a moment, has it, 2 out. So they win it in June, coming back to beat Golden State, and look at that.
That's unbelievable.
Just great. And then on October 25th, raising of the banner, the rings, which are rather large. And we had Game 1 of this World Series, a win by the Indians, a celebration for the Cavs. Cavs won that night too. Here's a pitch that bounces into Kipnis. Two out, nobody on, a 1-0 pitch. Jason doubled his last time, and he scored the only run tonight for Cleveland to count 2-0.
You know, just again, when we were talking earlier about trying to find storylines and statistics, I saw somewhere somebody tweeted the last time the Indians were in a Game 7 situation and there were 2 ties in the NFL. They did. Well, yeah, exactly. Come on. How long do you got to search stuff like that? By the way, there's 2 ties in the NFL.
Yeah, there are. Right-hander Jeff Manship is getting loose. 3-1 on Kipnis.
See, this is the only thing that you run in with Arrieta. 2 quick outs, 3-0 count. he can go back and forth like this. It's not your prototypical locked in, as Bosio's sitting here going, lock in, 6-run lead, pour some fastballs in there.
Kipnis hits it deep into left at the wall. Kipnis, goodbye, 7-2. Arrieta fell behind in the count and paid the price.
You know, we used to have back in the day a fine if you got 2 outs and you went 3-0. And there's the home run celebration. You got fined. But he got behind, had to come in, and Kipnis is glad that the 3-1 fastball went where it did.
He's doubled. He's now homered, scored both runs. Here's Lindor. Strike one. The largest comeback wins in postseason history, just to get this out there. 8 by the Philadelphia A's over the Chicago Cubs. The 1929 World Series Game 4. Down 8-0, won 10-8. Kipnis got a lot of power the other way. 0-1. Hard hit right at Rizzo on one hop. And that sends Game 6 into the 6th. Solo shot Kipnis. Cubs lead is 5. Fourth pitcher of the night for Terry Francona is Jeff Manship. And this is down and away, ball 1 to Wilson Contreras. Bottom 3 in the lineup for Chicago: Contreras, Hayward, and Baez. 7-2 after the Kipnis home run.
You're going to see a lot of those, by the way. He loves that pitch. And he can spin it. Another one of those guys that can spin a baseball.
think we have set the unofficial record for the use of the word spin during a World Series. It's a new word that everybody uses now because they can measure how many times that baseball is spinning to home plate.
But that's what you're seeing the Cubs do a lot.
One away is Contreras is now 0 for 3, and we'll welcome you inside our broadcast booth. I'm Joe Buck. That's a Hall of Famer, John Smoltz. There's a Hall of Famer out there watching, Bill Webb, who's recovering from a couple of broken ribs. We miss you, Bill. Miss your awful singing. I miss you coughing into my ear right here. We're thinking of you tonight, buddy. As John Moore has done a fantastic job sitting in the seat normally manned by our good friend Bill Webb. Pete Macheska sitting there next to John Moore. Our producer is Pete, and with one out, here's a strike to Hayward. Manship, Hayward, strike 2. Steve Horn, our editorial consultant, reminded us during the break that the late great Jim Fregosi coined the phrase, sometimes you have to learn how to lose in a series like this. And tonight, you mentioned it earlier, Terry Francona can go through his bullpen, can bring in good arms, but he can save his big weapons for a potential Game 7 if his team doesn't rally. And I'm talking about the left-hander Andrew Miller, the right-hander Brian Shaw, and the right-hander Cody Allen. That's a lot of thunder in that bullpen if there's a Game 7.
And that's why I thought it would be the hardest game he'd managed if it was close. Imagine in this situation right here, he would be awfully tempted in a tie game or a one-run lead to do exactly that. The formula has to work out for Terry Francona and his team to be successful, and it has. When they've taken the lead after 5, they don't lose, period. Last 23. But in a game like tonight, in a weird way, if this plays out and it doesn't get close, it actually is an advantage for him. I mean, the worst kind of losses are the ones you lose late, right? Well, this one might have been lost early.
Hayward gets under it, skies it into right again. Chisenhall, 2 out. A T-Mobile One in-game box score for the Cubs. A lot of hits right there in the middle, from Bryant to Rizzo to Zobrist, and a 6 RBI night for Addison Russell.
Outstanding collection of all the damage right there. And again, unfortunately for the Indians, this whole game turned on a misplayed fly ball.
Ball hit by Russell, just a routine fly ball into right center in the first inning. With this crowd as loud as it was, Chisenhall and Naquin didn't communicate properly, and the ball literally just fell with the two looking at each other.
And usually that doesn't happen at home because the crowd is not as loud when a fly ball goes out that they know is going to be an out. I remember at the Metrodome, not only was it hard to see because of the white ceiling, but they were so loud, and we had a misplay between our right fielder David Justice and Mark Lemke, and it provided some runs for the Twins.
Here's Baez sticking the bat out and getting a base hit. And that's a couple times now Javier Baez has gone up the middle, and he looks skyward with his palms out to the side, saying finally, as he gets an infield hit.
That's going to make his manager, who had a sit-down talk with him, a lot happier. Look, he looked bad on the first 2, and he decided to cut down his swing and take a chance with contact, and that's exactly what happened.
Here comes Terry Francona. Manship gives up the infield 2-out hit. Zach McAllister's coming in out of the bullpen in a 5-run game. Jeff Manship just exited, we talked about spin rate. StatCast is powered by Amazon Web Services, and here's the breaking ball and the spin rate. These pitches from Jeff Manship, and this is what's measured.
That's slowed down a lot. You won't see that kind of circle spin. The hitter at least won't see it like that.
It's in RPMs as Fowler flies one into left center, and there they are again. Naquin flashing in front of the left fielder Crisp. The inning is over. Bottom of the 6th inning rolls in Game 6. Indians will bat down by 5. First pitch from Jake Arrieta misses to Mike Napoli for ball 1. It's a Cavalindians shirt here at Progressive Field. A 1-0 pitch is swung on and fouled back. That might have gotten out of the park behind home plate. If not, to the back reaches of the upper deck. 1 ball, 1 strike on Napoli, who has an RBI single and a strikeout. Brad Mills, the bench coach. Another big swing by Napoli, strike 2.
You got to get the ball up, that's for sure. Down, he's got that swing path. He could hit moonshots on the pitch down.
So Brad Mills talking to Tyler Naquin. There's been a lack of communication out in right center and left center. They can't hear Naquin. Here's a 1-2 pitch, just missed. 2-2. Joe West wouldn't ring him up.
Glad you used the word just. Oh my. There's that late movement.
swing and a miss on the very next delivery, and a strikeout starts the 6th.
You know what's so impressive right there of Arrieta? I mean, he doesn't show a ton of emotion anyways, but to just sit there and know, no big deal. All right, I know that was a strike. I'm not going to overreact. And make a quality pitch after the curveball, after he sees the fastball and thinks a curveball pitch here. Joe Maddon would love nothing more than to ride him at 125 pitches and give him 7-8 innings if the score stays like this. This is the time, though, where he has shown, Arrieta has, to leak a little bit, and he has to get the bullpen up. But with a 5-run lead and about 88 pitches, he would love to see at least get to the 7th or through the 7th.
Jose Ramirez takes the ball. Jake Arrieta went 5 2/3 in game 2. 1 run on 2 hits, but 3 walks. Tonight he's walked 2, struck out 9 after getting Napoli a moment ago. That is high, 2-0.
Yeah, the difference in that first game, besides the grip and the weather, is that he was throwing a no-hitter and would have been taken out, because it wasn't the prototypical no-hitter where he locked in. He was all over the place a little bit. Tonight he has been much better. I mean, the pitches that he's missed have been close, and he got behind and gave up a 3-1 home run, but looks a lot better.
7-2 game. Cubs on top. 2-1 pitch from Arrieta. Jose Ramirez is fouled away, strike 2.
And the reason I say that is because when the Cubs and the Indians, if they were to play tomorrow and you can get through without using your big guns, like it looks like Cleveland might not, you want to have the same scenario for Chicago.
That's ball 3. 3-2. The big guns out of the bullpen. He's one of them, Mike Montgomery, who's now rested and getting loose in case something starts for Cleveland. Obviously, Aroldis Chapman. And then, if there is a game 7, John Lester would be down there for Joe Maddon. Three-2.
Used to be with the closers, each game you don't use them in big games and big series, just add an out, meaning the next time they pitch, however many times they did, you add another out to each one of those outings. That's where you get to 2 innings, 2 1/3, 2 2/3. That's what I anticipate tomorrow if there is that.
Fly ball into left, pretty well hit. Back is Zobrist, 2 out. T-Mobile 1 in-game box score for Cleveland. Kipnis has had a nice night. He's doubled. He scored twice. He homered last inning. Napoli with an RBI hit. Nothing else. A walk to Lindor. Jake Arrieta is 1 strikeout away from tying a Cubs franchise record for most strikeouts in a World Series game all time. He's got 9. The Cubs record is 10. And it was set in 1908. Orville overall. 1908 game 5 against the Tigers.
I wonder what his nickname was.
Oh. Strike 1.
You can't add a Y to any of that like most guys do when they have nicknames. O squared. I like O.
1-2. Rather 1 ball 1 strike. Chisenhall waiting. 2 out. Ball 2. Tom Verducci.
Yeah, Jake's fastball tonight obviously on point. I'll start with a disclaimer. They did give him 3 runs before he took the mound. Now, that's like Smoltz giving me some strokes before we get to the first tee. It helps, but it doesn't guarantee anything. What we're seeing here, extreme velocity. He hit 97 early in this game. He's done that once the entire season. And we talked a lot about the short rest for Josh Tomlin. Didn't talk much about the extra rest for Jake Arrieta. Look at the difference, guys. You're seeing a guy on November 1st throwing the baseball as hard as he has all year long.
Their season in which he threw just under 200 innings in the regular season, 197 and a third. The count's full now with 2 out, nobody on Chisenhall.
Well, really, the last month and a half, the Cubs had the luxury to kind of go to a 6-man rotation. They were in cruise control. So their starters coming into this series, they were going to use 4. Nobody comes back on short rest. Everybody they faced, it seemed like, had to come back on short rest after the San Francisco series.
Did it with the Dodgers. And then here against the Indians, another foul by Chisenhall. Obviously, Kershaw tried to do it. And now it's only 3 starters. If there is a game 7, it'll be Corey Kluber trying to do it for a 2nd time within this series alone. 3rd time this postseason. 3-2 pitch. 2-out walk. 3rd walk handed out by Arrieta. And with Crisp coming up, Joe Maddon will play with this no more. And just like he did in game 2, Arrieta goes 5 2/3. He leaves up by 5 with a man on, and Mike Montgomery will come into the game with Crisp, the scheduled hitter. Good work tonight for Arrieta. Kicks off when bitter rivals USA and Mexico face off. Will it be Dos Acero again? Coverage begins Friday, November 11th at 7 Eastern on FS1. Or watch it live on Fox Sports Go. Tonight's aerial coverage, as you look at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, brought to you by DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you got to get DirecTV. Call 1-800-DirecTV. Here's Brandon Guyer to take on Mike Montgomery. 1 on, 2 out.
Yeah, interesting move here. The matchups favor Cleveland. That's why I thought he might leave in Jake.
But 1 pitch. Russell flips for the out as Baez keeps his foot on the bag. And the forced out ends the 6th. This ball came up on Russell, smothered it, gathered, and flipped for the out. 7-2 after 6. Back after this from your local Fox station. Welcome back to the World Series on Fox. Tonight's telecast is presented by T-Mobile One. A look at Gateway Plaza, where they are packed in watching, hoping for a big Cleveland rally as Schwarber leads it off and takes a ball from Zach McAllister. Brandon Guyer, who pinch hit, stays in the game and left. Schwarber 0 for 2 with a walk and a run scored. And has his first hit of the night. On to start the 7th inning with Bryant coming up.
Guy could flat out hit.
Schwarber gets his 4th hit in 11 at bats. He's also got 3 walks. Here's Chris Bryant. Bryant 2 for 3 tonight. Homered in the first, singled leading off the 5th, and then was stranded at second base when Rizzo, Zobrist, and Russell were taken care of by Salazar. Strike 1.
There's no reason to really hold Schwarber for Napoli. Bryant rarely goes that way anyways. There's a big gap between first and second, but typically if there was nobody on, the first baseman could help out in that area. I don't think Schwarber is going to be thinking about going anywhere. Station to station.
Not after the knee surgery. Next one to Bryant. Outside for a ball. interesting to see how Joe Maddon manages the last 9 outs. Hoping, obviously, to get to a Game 7 tomorrow night. And he would love for Bryant or somebody else to pop one and give him a little more breathing room so he could take the load off of Aroldis Chapman, who threw a career high out of the bullpen 2 2/3 innings 2 nights ago in Game 5.
I'm just telling you, in this day and age with so much media attention and coverage and scrutiny, you got to trust your guys. But it's so hard when you have weapons. People and even managers will get nervous even with a 4-run lead. They're not going to take any chances. If there's a 4-run lead or less, Chapman's going to be in the game. I can promise you. Even a 5-run game.
3-1 to Bryant. Fouled back. Full count.
And I'd do it the other way. I would trust my guys and then bring them in only if I needed to, because of what's at stake. Not only obviously tonight, but tomorrow. And then you got a full complement of a guy that you can bring for 2 innings plus. If you're going to do that down 3 games to 1, you're definitely doing that in the seventh game, no doubt.
(3-2) to Bryant. That is a foul ball down the right field line. And Schwarber will have to come back to first. Sam Holbrook said foul ball. And it was. Bryant looking for a 3-hit night.
And he should spin something right here. 3-2 count.
Popped up. Foul territory and out of room is the catcher Roberto Perez.
Well, he's throwing 97, 98, but he's getting close to that nitro zone for Bryant.
They're the guys on the postgame show on FS1. Kevin Burkhardt, Alex Rodriguez, hit and hurt. Pete Rose and Frank Thomas. Clevenger up for the 2nd time tonight. The left-hander is Ryan Merritt. Game 5 star in the ALCS. Line drive, base hit, and a 3-hit night for Kris Bryant. First 2 are on for Chicago here in the 7th.
Getting too good of swings and seeing all those fastballs. Now another mess for the Indians. Terry Francona, I don't know if he'll go to the left-hander or not against Rizzo.
Doesn't look like it at the moment, but I'll say again, these are big opportunities for Chicago to end some of the suspense and potentially keep Aroldis Chapman in that bullpen until tomorrow night. 2 on, nobody out, and the number 4 hitter Anthony Rizzo at the plate. Ball 1. Fifth pitcher of the night for Francona, McAllister, after Manchip, Salazar, Otero, Josh Tomlin, who pitched the Indians to the top of the division for good on June 4th. 2-0 this postseason tonight. Lasted less than 3. Ball 2, 2-0. Switch hitter on deck in Ben Zobrist.
Dangerous count. Rizzo, such a good hitter, disciplined to look at one spot and looking to lift. Be surprised if this ball was hittable on the ground.
Fouls it back behind the plate and out of play. Rizzo homered twice during the NLCS. Once at Dodger Stadium, once at Wrigley. Has not gone deep in this World Series. 2 for 3 tonight. And 7 for 20 against Cleveland.
San Francisco did the best job against Rizzo. They just flat out didn't pitch to him, and it was frustrating. And that number you were talking about, 1 for 23, I think, at one point.
That's into right. Chisenhall will come to get it. The runners will hold at first and second, one out. And Zobrist is walking to the plate. Junior Home Run Derby allows kids 14 and under to compete for the National Home Run Derby Championship at the 2017 All-Star Game. Sign up today to host a free competition in your local community at jrhrd.com. Here's Zobrist, 2 for 3. Singles in the first and the third, and now he flies one into left. Back is Geyer in front of the track, 2 out. And it will bring in Addison Russell.
Zobrist's bat looks like it's the start of the season right now. It's fresh. Every ball he hits seems to be squared up, and that one right there included.
Addison Russell now in the month of October, 17 games, 2 in the regular season, 15 in the postseason, had 6 RBIs. In the month of November so far, he's got 6. This being November 1st, game 6, ball 1. Remember, the lead runner is Schwarber, does not run well. Bryant, the trail runner at first, 2 out now. McAllister trying to keep Cleveland in the ballgame. 97 past the bat of Russell, strike 1.
Wow. First pitch slider and then fastball. Here you go. Try and hit it. He had a good swing on it.
The 1-1. And now the 2-1. Hard hit, but right at Ramirez. And the inning is over. Good job by McAllister to get around the back-to-back hits by Schwarber and Bryant. Time to stretch. Cubs lead, still 5. In the 6th inning, and he's out there for the 7th. Rajay Davis first up, pinch hitting for Naquin. Ball 1 from the lefty, picked up in season from Seattle. Davis had a nice game 5. A couple of hits, 3 stolen bases. 1 ball, 1 strike. You saw the numbers, just 3 for 27 this postseason. He gets on, he can get things started for Cleveland, down by 5. 7th inning of game 6. On a line, right at Fowler, 1 out. Number 9 hitter will be Roberto Perez. This week, start your Sunday with Fox NFL Kickoff, and America's #1 pregame show. Then it's rookie sensation Dak Prescott and the Cowboys taking on the Browns, or the Eagles collide with the Giants, or other regional action. Coverage begins this Sunday at 11 Eastern on Fox.
Lions just keep getting missed out. I see them on there, but I don't blame you. I really don't.
Home of the Cleveland Browns. They've got the Cowboys coming to town. Well, right now, Detroit 500 club, but they're in a division that seems more winnable by the week. Got the Cubs in the World Series, and last night for John Fox, a win for the Chicago Bears over the Minnesota Vikings, who now have lost 2 straight. 1 ball, 1 strike on Perez.
Montgomery's curveball breaks so much, he's actually got to start it up higher than most, especially to the right-handed hitter. It's something your brain doesn't always get around when you're thinking about throwing it for strikes. You're hoping that you swing, the hitter swings at him.
Here's a 2-1. Three and 1 with a DH Santana on deck. Three-1. Full count. Perez's fly to center struck out. Starter Jake Arrieta very strong tonight. 2 runs, 3 hits, 9 strikeouts, 3 walks. Then Montgomery, his 3-2 is down for ball 4. A 1-out walk. Let's take another look. Another pitch that looked pretty good, called for a ball. And that's 1 on, 1 out.
Yeah, gutsy take there on the 3-2 pitch, but he got the benefit of it.
Aroldis Chapman is up. 7th inning. Justin Grimm is alongside. Strike 1. Santana tonight 0 for 3. He's got 9 hits this postseason. 3 of them have left the park. He's been much better against left-handed pitching. 417 at the start of the night. Strike 2.
But that is the pitch that gives him trouble. You've seen 2 good breaking balls after walking Perez. Index finger up, tremendous spin and downward tilt.
The 0-2. Outside, ball one. Are you surprised to see Aroldis Chapman getting loose for the Cubs in their bullpen here in the 7th of a 5-run game?
I am. I mean, I understand it in theory, but I am, because that's what I was saying about now the advantage.
Here's a fly ball into center. Fowler has out number 2.
That's why you have an advantage being up 3-2 and 2 games to play 1 for the Cleveland Indians, because Joe Maddon can't really take chances and assume in theory that you're just going to get to game 7. He has to be prepared to stop any kind of scenario. But man, it really does change the environment if Chapman has to pitch multiple innings in a game. Like, I know it's the last 2 games of the year and you got all off season to rest, but you're human. You're going to be a little fatigued even with the adrenaline rush of a World Series game 7.
Well, you saw the bullpen phone ring. I wonder if they told Chapman to stop after that second out of the inning.
You just don't want to get him too hot.
Well, the answer is no. He's still going, and he's throwing like he's coming in this game. One on, 2 out. It counts 2-0 now on Kipnis, who's had a nice night with a homer and a double.
And the surprise for me, if you go back to the the LA situation, when they got him up, it was a relatively close game. The Cubs blew it open, and they brought him in, and he gave up some runs and just looked disinterested in game 5. That's what you want to avoid here.
Right side, a base hit. 2 on with 2 out. Kipnis, a 3-hit night. And here comes Joe Maddon. Could he be going to Chapman here in the 7th? You've got Lindor coming up, and he is. Up by 5, 2 out in the 7th. Here comes the big left-hander in a 7-2 game. Aroldis Chapman, one of the major reasons why this World Series got back to Cleveland. 23 of his 42 pitches, which was 2 off his career high, were 100 or more. But after asking Chapman for 8 outs 2 nights ago, is Joe Maddon in a 5-run game asking him for 7 outs tonight?
I don't know, but when can you say this? The Indians are thrilled he's in the game. Think about it. Because regardless of what happens in this game, they will have typically burned up Chapman for multiple innings, it looks like, if there's a game 7.
Lindor, strike 1.
So yes, Joe Maddon is going. I thought, you know, taking out Arrieta early has propelled this to be this scenario, because when you take out Arrieta that early, you then force your bullpen to eat up the rest of the innings, and then you're almost forced to go to a scenario similar to this because you want to get to game 7.
Here's the 0-1. Ground ball right side. Chapman, a race to the bag, safe. And the bases are loaded. And Chapman is limping just a little bit going back toward the mound.
It's about the 2nd time he's done this with a lower leg. You'd think a knee. He was limping earlier as he completed the game earlier. And this one will be.
Oh, they may look at that. Meanwhile, right now he's already got the ball. So the question is, does the right foot of Chapman hit the bag before Lindor? And it looks like it does. This would be a major reversal.
There's enough, I think, there to turn it, and that's where I think he jams his knee a little bit.
Now the trainer, athletic trainer, is going to come out, and there it is. But this just had a weird feeling about it from the moment Joe Maddon went out there to make this pitching change. And you know, this is why it was so important in the top of this inning when the Cubs had 2 on with nobody out, that they add on, and they didn't. Good work by McAllister, and now an out call at first, so the inning is over. And Chapman had to throw just a couple of pitches. The question is he injured? Let's go to the 8th. 7 of this World Series. The Cleveland Indians, the Chicago Cubs. Tomorrow night in a matchup with Kyle Hendricks and Corey Kluber. Pre-game show is at a special time on Fox, 7 Eastern, leading into Game 7 at 8 if necessary, or watch it all live on Fox Sports Go. Here's Clevenger into the game. And while Terry Francona hasn't had to use any of his big guns out of the bullpen, Miller, Shaw, or Allen, Joe Maddon has already brought in Aroldis Chapman. The good news for Chicago is nobody's looking at Chapman on the dugout bench. He doesn't need any attention after it looked like he jammed his knee covering the bag on that ground ball to first by Lindor. And he threw only 2 pitches. Not to call it a panic move, but it has an odd feel with the Cubs needing to win 2 to win it all, knowing that tomorrow night they're going to have to go to their bullpen at some point with a lead. Joe Maddon went for the throat here in the 7th inning. Now we're in the 8th, asking for 7 outs from a guy who gave him 8 outs and 42 pitches 2 nights ago.
Yeah, you typically would go to this move if you needed just this game to win. I mean, no doubt. But I get the theory in general. There's no tomorrow if we don't win tonight. But if you don't hold a 5-run lead with the balance of your bullpen and bring him in later, oh well. I mean, he's hoping, he's asked the question tomorrow. That means he won.
Here's the 2-2 as Davis takes over in center. That's outside for a ball. Again, the Cubs had a runner at second. Nobody out in the 5th inning, didn't score. Had 2 on with nobody out in the top of the 7th inning. And didn't add to a 5-run lead. That played a role in bringing Chapman in the 7th inning as well. That's ball 4.
And I think, like you mentioned, I think the 2-out walk by Arrieta has made all these moves even possible. The 2-out walk, for whatever reason, in the history of what Arrieta has been the last 3 weeks, they did not want to create any more opportunities. But then the left-hander coming in allowed Francona to take Crisp and Naquin out and put in 2 right-handers. So that's where we have the scenario right now. Cubs up 5, and it looks like Chapman, unless they score a bunch more, is going to pitch at least the next inning.
Here's Hayward now. And what's become evident in this World Series, the balance in the starting pitching goes to Chicago and their depth. The bullpen, no comparison between the 3 big arms that Terry Francona has and the couple of guys that Joe Maddon trusts. Obviously, the lights out Aroldis Chapman. Maddon trusts Mike Montgomery, and everybody else, you just don't know. And all have been good for long stretches this season. That's up and away 2-0. Ken Rosenthal is with us, so get your opinion. Were you surprised to see Chapman come in the bottom of the 7th?
Very surprised. And let's face it, despite the situation at the time, the chances of the Cubs winning were still excellent. Now my question now is, how long will he go? Will he indeed finish this game, or will they look to someone else to close it out to preserve him more for tomorrow?
Here's a double play ball off the bat of Hayward. Out at second, got them both. And with 2 out, nobody on, the batter will be Baez. Tom Verducci, what did you think of that move?
Well, certainly surprised, but think about this, guys. If we get to a Game 7, Joe Maddon can cover 9 innings with Kyle Hendricks, John Lester, and John Lackey, 3 of his 4 top starting pitchers. And I think even if Chapman closes this game, available for probably maybe 1 or 2 outs tomorrow.
I think he's going to be available for more, but I don't think you bring him in this game if you don't anticipate him finishing it. So he's in it for the foreseeable future of this game. So 2 innings and a third. He can limit the pitches and get quick outs. But again, if you're the Indians and you're not going to win, to have him pitch 2 innings and a third, you got to feel great going into Game 7 with your ace on the mound and your ace in the hole. 3 guys that could come in as early as the 4th or 5th inning. This really, in my mind, shortens up the game and the window for the Cubs to get the lead tomorrow more than ever, because we've seen what Terry Francona has done with his weapons. So I believe it's Chapman's to finish.
And it's advantage Cleveland if there's a Game 7. That's strike 3, and the inning is over. Clevenger gets around the leadoff walk. Bottom of the 8th inning rolls in. Napoli, Ramirez, Chisenhall coming up for Chapman. And the Cubs who lead by 5. First pitch misses, up and away. Ball 1 to Mike Napoli. Napoli, then Ramirez, then Chisenhall against a Aroldis Chapman, who's still a bit gimpy. Limped out to the mound a bit. Fires a strike. Hey. Nice to be gimpy and throw 100 miles an hour. The count 1 ball, 1 strike. And Napoli, who's 1 for 3. 4 pitches thrown for Chapman. Cubs are hopeful he can be economical with the pitch count here in Game 6. Sizzling in for strike 2.
What he did in Game 5 was pretty remarkable, since he doesn't do that a lot. Got to believe his stock went up because he's a free agent, so every time he's able to pitch multiple innings.
Napoli went around, and that's a strikeout to start the 8th. And it is, I think, exactly like looking at a stock. It's rising and falling throughout October. There are a couple of times where Chapman's stock may have taken a hit, but it was when he came into games with men on, an unclean inning, so to speak. Because when he's been on and he's had the bases clear behind him, he's looked unhittable. Here's Jose Ramirez 0 for 3 tonight, strike one. It was an 8-out save for Chapman in game 5. Not a save opportunity tonight. Up by 5. Looking for 7 outs, potentially 1 ball, 1 strike. Now a pitch called high for ball 2, 2-1. That's into center for a base hit. 1 on, 1 out. And Yan Gomes will come off the bench and bat for Chisenhall.
Well, this is what you need him to do, and this is what the Indians are getting a chance to do, is see more and more of Chapman.
Just to give you a little historical perspective, if Chapman were to finish this game tonight, the last pitcher to have 2 7+ out game finishing outings in a single World Series, Bruce Sutter for the St. Louis Cardinals in 1982. Master of the split finger pitch. Gomes, strike 1. Game 2 he went 2 1/3, got the win. Game 3 went 2 1/3, got the save against Milwaukee. Gomes is 0 for 2 this postseason, both at bats coming in this World Series. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Now for Chapman, the more strikes he throws, the better, because you really ideally would like to get out of this game with 30 pitches or less. That means 2 innings and a third, and much more doable for multiple action tomorrow night. He hits the 40 pitch mark, you're asking a lot. He'll pitch tomorrow if there's a game 7, no matter how many pitches he throws. That I'm sure of, but the effectiveness is what goes in question. How sharp, how late life fastball he have versus generated lower leg velocity. There's a big difference.
2 balls and a strike now on Gomes. 2-2.
I never claimed even close to have the body that Mr. Chapman has, so I can only speak from my experience of pitching 3 innings in an elimination game in the playoffs, not the World Series, as a closer. And I just know I was going to fake it, that I wasn't tired after that game going back to game 5. It just takes its toll, and you have the adrenaline and the rush, and you prepare and you flush your body the next day. But to think it doesn't have a toll on you is somebody who's never done it before.
Broken bat, might be 2. Out at second. What a job by Baez. Unbelievable turn by Javier Baez as he took an errant toss, stepped on the bag, and fires across for the double play, and that takes a load off Aroldis Chapman. Circle that. Baez with the good glove work again. A magician at second base. 9th inning now. Game 6. Cubs by 5. jumped out to a 7-0 lead for Jake Arrieta. They lead 7-2, ninth inning of game 6. For Chicago, it will be Dexter Fowler first up. Took a strike from Clevenger. And now a ball. Michael Martinez is in the game in right field. The bench is empty for Terry Francona, but his bullpen is well stocked with Shaw, Allen, and Miller. Ryan Merritt also down there, but Francona more than happy to have those 3 untouched, ready for potential game 7. The 1-2 to the right side for Kipnis. Fowler, a hitless night. Boy, it's been fun, John, to watch Javier Baez do what he's done all postseason around second base.
Yeah, you see Russell got it in the palm and just kind of flicked it with his fingers. That is a huge play because, as you mentioned, that just reset the pitch count for Chapman. That double play, you've seen it from the first base cam, I'm assuming, right there. I go back to the first inning and how it changed all the strategy for Terry Francona. 1-0 going into the third, and Tomlin gets in trouble. He's using different formula of his bullpen. He can keep the game at a different point. Of course, once the bases were loaded and he brought in a reliever, and the grand slam took it to this point.
Here's a high fly ball into center. Back on the track. Davis 2 out.
So this would have ended the inning. You were talking the first 2 out, a homer by Bryant. This is an easy fly ball that a miscommunication caused 2 runs to score. A huge momentum swing. 3-0 for the Cubs. Arrieta, before he even steps on the mound, has been given a 3-run cushion, and then it snowballs from there.
And it was Addison Russell who hit that ball into right center, who in the 3rd inning hit a grand slam. His 3rd home run of this postseason. He's got 12 RBIs now for Chicago, 6 of them here tonight in game 6. Here's Bryant, who's 3 for 4. Bryant has had good swings all night.
It even changes the way Tomlin would pitch to certain hitters, because now you're behind the 8 ball. You got to try to pitch perfect. So that game turned quickly for the Indians in a way that it changed strategy for Francona.
Another hit for Bryant. He's got a 4-hit game 6. And that's big momentum for their number 3 hitter again, heading into a potential game 7. Bryant 3, Rizzo 4. They haven't hit in these spots since July 3rd. Here's Rizzo.
Best move that Madden made today was putting Schwarber in the 2nd spot, period. It has affected the lineup. It affects a pitcher in the way that you face a lineup.
Strike 1 to Rizzo.
And the hitters are feeding off of it. I mean, we talked about the top 5. Well, they have done their part with the exception of Fowler. The 6th spot delivered 6 RBIs because the front 4 in front of him gave Russell the opportunity to do damage.
And he did it. Rizzo into right field. This ball is out of here. 9-2. The lead is back to 7 here in the 9th inning. And we'll see if that changes the strategy in the bottom of this frame. 9-2 Chicago. And a big night by the 3-4 hitters for Joe Maddon. Nobody is up for Chicago in their bullpen. But a conversation between Maddon and Bosio. That's inside for a ball to Zobrist. I understand what Tom Verducci talked about, and it's a great point with regard to tomorrow night. Lackey's available. Lester's available. You're talking about having two vets do something they're not used to doing, and Lester is a guy who, as we've talked about and seen, has a impossible time keeping runners close. So yeah, it's John Lester with his stuff, but in a tight game, how much do you trust him going in if you can't hold runners close to the base?
Yeah, you're totally right. And the only way he comes in is he starts the inning. And the only way he starts the inning is if they got a 2 or 3 run lead. In my opinion, based on what you just said, Lackey could give you some length if you need it late or extra innings. But the beauty of this game, it's not easy managing. And it looks like the Cubs are going to fight to face a game 7 and worry about all of that as it comes about.
Well, now Bossio's on the phone. We'll see who springs to action. But I think where you were going earlier is this. Zobrist takes a walk. If you don't trust the guys in the bullpen enough to get 3 outs before the other side gets 7, then you don't have a chance anyway.
Correct.
Home run for Rizzo to make it a 7-run game again. His first to the World Series. Here's Addison Russell. Russell with a 6 RBI night, batting for the 5th time. A 2-run double and a grand slam. Two out in the inning. Zobrist aboard. 2-0 from Clevenger.
I think the other scenario that could happen is we look at these guys that we talked about in the open. My goodness. The other thing that can happen with 2 outs and this happening with a 2-run homer, as the bullpen gets going, you have Chapman go out there and get an out. Give the guys time, plenty of time, and let them finish.
Should end the inning. This is the 59th World Series game in Cubs franchise history. It's their first 3-homer game. Strop and Wood getting loose. Will one of them come in, or will it be Chapman? Rizzo goes deep. Shows off the smile. Cubs up 7. on Fox. Tonight's telecast is presented by T-Mobile One. There'll be a lot to talk about after this one, especially with an eye toward tomorrow. Aroldis Chapman has thrown 57 pitches now, 34 of which triple digits over the last 3 nights. Strop and Wood, but it's Chapman on the mound. Geyer at the plate. Ball 1 outside. We intend to talk to Joe Maddon in our postgame show, which will air on FS1 with Kevin Burkhardt, Alex Rodriguez, Frank Thomas, and Pete Rose. Two 2-0 the count on Geyer. Rajai Davis on deck. Cubs jumped out with 3 in the first, 4 in the third, have led throughout. Down by 7, swinging on a 2-0 pitch. It's 2-1. Explain that.
I would have given him a take for sure. But down 7, I guess I throw all those rules out. Down 2, 100% take.
But at some point, don't you want to, maybe silly and splitting hairs, but make Chapman just keep throwing pitches?
Yeah.
Here comes a 2-1 pitch. 3-1. A walk. We'll see if that's it. Yep. That's going to be it for Chapman, but it was not a short night. Here's the double play. Turned by Russell. Brilliance by Baez. That was in the bottom of the 8th. And then the home run by Anthony Rizzo. A 2-run shot into the seats and right. And Rizzo and Bryant have had big nights. Chapman will think about a Game 7 as he's out here in the 9th inning of Game 6. World Series Game 7 tomorrow night. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern. A matchup of Kyle Hendricks and Corey Kluber. Special time on Fox, 7 Eastern. That's when we hit the air. Game time is 8 o'clock straight up, or watch it all live on Fox Sports Go. Pedro Strop delivers a strike. Here's a jam shot, foul backing out of play. Meanwhile, there have been records all over the place. World Series history made again as Bryant and Rizzo are the first 3-4 batters in World Series history to collect 7 or more hits in a World Series game. And there are the numbers. 62 pitches for Aroldis Chapman over the last 2 games, albeit with a day off in between. He threw 20 here tonight in an inning and a third. Allowed 1 hit, walked 1, struck out 1. High fly ball in the air to left, back into the corner. It's Zobrist for a long first out in the 9th. Davis gave it a ride, but Zobrist tracked it down. 1 on, 1 out.
I know there's been major comebacks before, and we've seen it in the regular season, but it's unreal how intensified this game and this time of the year, right? I mean, it's amazing when you start counting outs, counting runs, counting base runners. If this happens, if that happens. Whew. I'm glad we're up here.
1 on, 1 out. Here's a wild pitch by Strop as Roberto Perez looks at ball 1.
I thought the theme tonight was going to be, at least I didn't say it at the beginning, but I thought there'd be 11 pitchers tonight, and there's been 10. It just has a feeling with the way that this game's being played with Tomlin and Arrieta. Now, I never thought it would be 9-2, but nonetheless 10 pitchers. 4 for the Cubs, 6 for the Indians.
But none for Cleveland that would be considered their top 3 in the bullpen, and that is their closer Cody Allen, their setup reliever right-hander Brian Shaw, and Mr. Almost Perfect Andrew Miller. They are all ready for Game 7.
Exactly.
62 pitches for Aroldis Chapman over 2 games. Strike 2 on Perez.
Put your seatbelts on and enjoy tomorrow night.
Joe Maddon changing his lineup tonight. It paid off immediately with Schwarber in the number 2 spot. Moving Bryant back 1, Rizzo back 1, Zobrist back 1. And then Russell out of the number 6 spot with 6 RBIs. For the most part, all Cubs tonight. Here's one into right. This ball will go into the corner. That'll score the runner as Geyer comes home. Throw to second and out for the 2nd out on a throw by Hayward. And a tag by Russell. Down by 6. Terry Francona loses a runner on the bases. And that won't sit well with Terry.
That won't, but you're not going to see a better throw right here. Jason Hayward gets to this ball and then just throws a bullet. So far that he had to jump, did Russell. And so much that he was out easily with Perez trying to get to second.
And the tag by Russell on the right foot of Roberto Perez. Now 2 out. Here's Santana. He takes a ball. And now another. Game 7s in a baseball postseason series are usually things of beauty. You get a tight game 7, and in my opinion, there's nothing in sports like it.
It's the best.
They don't come along that often, but when you get a good game 7, you just can't step away from the pressure all night. What a good matchup. Here's a 4-pitch walk to Santana. The batter will be Kipnis.
Joe West is not happy about the mound visit. He wants to move it along.
Well, he won't be happy about this either.
We got to 11.
I don't know if Strop was upset about the balls and strikes or whatever, but Contreras came out. So did Matt. Now Strop's coming out, and a smile from Pedro to Joe West. On top with 3 in the first, and they've been smiling ever since. Leaving Wrigley, going on the road and forcing a game 7 with 1 more out. We're in the bottom of the 9th inning, a 9-3 game, 2 out. And after the next out, it will be official. World Series game 7, the starters, Kyle Hendricks against Corey Kluber, pitching on short rest for the 3rd time this postseason, 2nd time in this World Series. 2 great ERAs. And then the fun after they start tomorrow night's game 7. Here's Travis Wood into the game. Jason Kipnis has had a big night. Strike 1. Taking second is Santana, uncontested. And no stolen base awarded. Kipnis 3 for 4, needing a triple to hit for the cycle. There's never been a cycle achieved by a hitter in postseason play.
You better not pull it. Hayward's over there.
1,508 games. There hasn't been a cycle, and there won't be one here tonight. This is Russell. Cubs have forced a game 7. Winning it 9-3. And a big night for the heart of this Chicago lineup. Bryant and Rizzo, Zobrist and Russell. And Travis Wood gets the final out in a 3-hour, 29-minute game. The winner is Arrieta, the loser Josh Tomlin. And tomorrow will be the 38th winner-take-all Game 7 in World Series history, and the third in the last 6 years. 2011, the Cardinals and the Rangers. 2 years ago, the Giants and the Royals.
Well, I don't know how much sleeping there will be tonight, but I can tell you this: whoever enjoys the moment the most tomorrow will have a better chance of success. You have two of the most non-emotional pitchers that I think are ready for a Game 7 in Hendrick and Kluber.
Kyle Hendricks 1-1 after a 16-8 year. And here's the final out, and a subdued reaction from Joe Maddon. The DH, who is back in business with a series in Cleveland, and Addison Russell, who on the 1st of November has a 6 RBI Game 6. And then back in Chicago, where they're having fun at Murphy's Bleachers. The celebration has been going since just after 8 o'clock, when the Cubs got 3 in the first. Let's go down to the field and check in with Tom Verducci.
Thanks, Joe. I'm with Joe Maddon. Joe, you confounded armchair managers all over the country, bringing your closer into the game with a lead in the 7th inning, and then in the 9th inning having him go out there with a lead of 7 runs. Please explain how you used Aroldis Chapman tonight.
Just trying to get Stropey ready. That happened so quickly with the home run. We had to get him ready. I wanted to get him out there, but that's why he went out for 1 hitter only. He's good hitter out or drawing the walk. He's still out of the game. Brought him in earlier because that's the part of the order he had to get out. He did not want the game to get away from you at that particular moment, so it all worked out well.
Now, he has thrown 62 pitches in the last 3 days. What do you anticipate in terms of tomorrow, length and effectiveness of Aroldis Chapman?
I really anticipate a lot of the same. I do. He's a very strong young man, and again, I'll talk to him later today and tomorrow, but I think he's going to be fine, honestly.
Thanks, Joe. We'll see you in Game 7.
My pleasure, buddy. Thank you.
And with me also, Chris Bryant. Chris, you got this game off to a start for the Cubs with the home run in the 1st inning. The curveball from Josh Tomlin. Tell me about the approach on that swing.
I mean, he threw me one the previous pitch. It was away. I mean, you can't really do much with the curveball away. That's kind of how it's been going this series, but you know, I saw it really good coming inside, and you know, I love hitting curveballs.
5 hits in your last 7 at-bats, 2 of those home runs. How do you feel about the way you're swinging it right now?
I feel good. I mean, it's happening at the right time. You know, I love this team when our back's against the wall, and we saw it, you know, 2 days ago, and you saw it tonight. It was just really good baseball.
You get to do it again tomorrow, backs against the wall for a Game 7. How does that sound?
You dream for that, man. I mean, we know it's going to be a good game. You know, we know their guy's going to be good. We got one of our best pitchers this year, too, going. So you dream for this, man.
Thanks, Chris. We'll see you tomorrow. Now over to Ken Rosenthal.
Thanks, Tom. Addison, let's start off with a little historical fact. You became the 2nd youngest player tonight to hit a grand slam in a World Series game after Mickey Mantle. What's your reaction to that?
Surprised, you know, rounding the bases. A lot of emotion was going through my head. Just happy it came tonight.
Now, you struggled in the NLCS, came out of it. You struggled at the start of the World Series, came out of it. How were you able to do that both times?
It's just no panic, you know. This is our lifestyle. We're here to have some fun. We're here to win some ball games. We're here to pick some teammates up, and that's just our game. That's how we played all year. So it's a lot of fun.
Game 7 tomorrow. It's what every kid dreams about. How excited will you be tonight? Will it be difficult to sleep?
I hope it's not difficult to sleep, but yeah, it's every kid's dream. I mean, it all comes down to Game 7, and we're excited. We're just going to go out here and just treat it almost like another game.
Addison, thanks very much. Joe, back to you.
Kenny, thank you, and thanks to Tom Verducci. Nice of Joe Maddon to grant the interview after this Game 6 and explain his thinking with regard to Aroldis Chapman, who comes on for an inning and a third and allows 1 run on 1 hit. Through 20 pitches, and tomorrow, the 2 longest World Series droughts, one of these will come to an end. The Cubs have been waiting since 1908. Will it end tomorrow night, or will it end for Cleveland? They last won it all in 1948. The pitching matchup, Kyle Hendricks, the right-hander, after a 16-win season, led the big leagues in ERA against Corey Kluber. He's been a warrior this postseason, 4-1 after an 18-win year. And when we play tomorrow, by days, it will be 39,466 days since the Cubs last won it all. For the Indians, 24,859.
Extra innings tomorrow.
That's your call.
Yeah.
From John Smoltz. There's nothing like a Game 7 winner take all for the 38th time in World Series history. Can't wait. Kevin, guys, it's all yours.
Okay, Joe and John, thanks very much. And it will be a Game 7, and we are fired up to talk about this Game 6. We will do that coming up here on Fox. The Cubs win, they force it. Plenty to do. We'll have a reaction from the field, from the clubhouse. We've got a lot to talk about in this game. Cubs offense come alive, and Aroldis Chapman used in an interesting situation. We'll be back to do that, but it was these Cubbies. The offense came to life early and often tonight to force a Game 7 in this exciting World Series. And so the Cub fans out in full force here in Cleveland. Game 7, here we come, post game. We're back.